let me try to simplify this with the thought experiment.
Yeah, okay.
Let's say I'm walking down the street and I see something I'm really afraid of. Let's say a crazy lion, for example. What happens, and you've already covered a lot of this, but in terms of this example, what's going to happen in my body when I receive that visual stimulus to my reaction of freezing up and then most likely running away from my life? On a neural level, what's happening in my body the moment I perceive a threat, and how does fear given rise to in the amygdala?
First thing we have to note is that for the auditory stimulus to go from the thalamus to the amygdala means that it's taking a shortcut, because the stimulus also gets from the auditory cortex to the amygdala when everything is intact. So the idea that I came up with very early on was a low road that's imprecise but fast, and a high road that would allow cortical processing to be more elaborate and control the amygdala as well. So when you see a snake or something on the ground that's all of a sudden triggering you, that's going to take the stimulus through the low road to the amygdala and allow you to respond immediately. At the same time, it will more slowly go to the auditory cortex and make its way to the amygdala. But in addition, from the auditory cortex, it also goes to the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex, I think, is the answer to how the fear itself comes about, as opposed to the behavioral and physiological responses.
Where would you place fear in these four realms of existence? Is fear something that's related to consciousness? Does it come with cognition? Or do you think it goes all the way back to even bacteria, multicellular organisms? Because there's some form of survival instinct, awareness of danger, even in those multicellular organisms. But can they feel fear?
So let's start with, again, in the human brain and work backwards. So
sure.
In the human brain, the stimulus will get to the amygdala in some way. And when it's there, it will activate the behavioral and physiological responses. That circuit I call a defensive survival circuit, not a fear circuit, because fear is something different. Fear is the conscious experience of being in harm's way. And that, I think, is a cognitive situation. In other words, if we go back to the split brain patient who is making up a story to explain his behavior, it's the same thing when we encounter danger in our lives. Stimulus goes to the prefrontal cortex. A story is concocted about that. All emotions for me are concoctions, interpretations. There are no basic and non-basic emotions, or inherited, and there's no inherited emotions. They're inherited responses, but the emotion is a cognitively constructed interpretation of the situation.